to Direction Northeast. Hello, I'm Abby Hathorn. This program is a presentation of the Communications Department of Northeast State Community College. As a part of the golden anniversary of Northeast State, we have produced a series of programs examining 3 distinct eras of the school's operations. In this episode of Direction Northeast, we'll look back over the transition years when the school became a community college. Our guests for this program are Dr. Wade Powers, President Emeritus of the College, and Nancy Forrester, a former Dean of the college. They are 2 pivotal figures in the transition from a technical school to a community college. Welcome, Dr. Powers and Nancy Forrester. It's great to have you on the show today.
Great to be here.
Pleased to be here. Thank you.
Northeast State has faced a lot of changes over the past 50 years. Dr. Powers, how, in your eyes, has that changed?
Well, actually, the school started as a vocational school, which was not a degree granting institution. Later, it transitioned to a technical institute, which offered degrees in very technical programs. And then in 1990, it became a comprehensive community college, including all of those technical degrees as well as transfer degrees. So it's been a sort of a metamorphosis across the years where it has gone from one status to actually 2 more, and now it's a very significant contributor to the community.
Now, how has that reputation changed since you were president here?
Well, actually, when I came, there was some resentment, particularly in the academic field, like the universities, because they thought the only thing we did was just teach how to be welders and mechanics. And it took a while for us to overcome that, particularly as it related to the other institutions. So it has changed dramatically. Now it's considered to be a bright light in the educational world and providing transfer students, but also not forsaking its technical programs. Many of them are much stronger and bigger, and there are many more now than there were.
Now, Nancy, how has Northeast State changed since you were a dean here?
Well, it hasn't changed much since I was a dean because I only left in 2013, retired as dean, and still continue to work for the college part-time. But through the years, it certainly changed dramatically. I came here in 1984. There were only 3 buildings on campus. There was the current, what we call the classroom building, and behind it the labs, and then a maintenance building. So with all the beautiful new buildings you drive on campus now, you would hardly recognize it. And as Dr. Powers was talking about the programs, the school is vastly different. We had 1,600 students when I came in 1984, and of course, transfer program at all. So when you look at all we are now today, that is a big change.
Oh, absolutely. Now, Nancy, since you've been here for such a great part of the school's transition, why do you think Northeast State was inspired to really move from being just a technical school to also a community college?
Well, I think that was, part of it was mandated by the state, but I think the mandate came from the need. There wasn't a community college east of Morristown, so there was a whole group of people up here in this part of the state who did not have access to a community college. So that was a big need, and we were able to fill that need.
Oh, absolutely. Now, on the subject of community colleges, Dr. Powers, how do you think Northeast State competes with or compares to other community colleges like Walters State?
Well, it's difficult to compare because each one has somewhat different mission and the programs they offer. But from my knowledge of Northeast State and the other community colleges, in my opinion, it's at the top. It's probably the best community college. I serve on the foundation of Volunteer State Community College, and that's where we live. So I've seen that school also change, but I just don't think it's as strong academically as Northeast State is.
Oh, absolutely. Now, were you still here, Dr. Powers, when the school was transitioning out of just a technical school?
In 1989, which would be the spring of '89, the legislature passed legislation changing us to a community college. And interestingly enough, the chancellor called me and said, well, what are we going to call it? And I said, well, one thing for certain, technical has to be in the name. There was a strong feeling in this community that if it ever became a community college, the technical programs would fall by the wayside. And so we wanted to include that name, and I just felt like a directional name was better than anything else. So I suggested it be named Northeast State Technical Community College. And fortunately, the chancellor agreed, and that's what it became.
Oh, absolutely, and we're pretty proud to have that name even today. Now, Nancy, what is your fondest memory of all the time that you've spent at Northeast State Community College?
Well, I think my fondest memories have to be the people, the friendships that I've made. I belong to two, what I call minor families here, my family's away from home. My math family in the math division, and still have very close bonds with all those people, and then the academic council, the Dean's Council, as we worked with our academic VP. So all the times with all those people, I think, are it for
Absolutely.
me.
Now, Nancy, what about the developmental work that you did with the remedial students and working on that? Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, yes, that was a very, very big part of my career. When I first came, there wasn't a developmental studies. Actually, I came in the spring of '84, and the next fall is when we started the developmental education program. And I had a colleague who came the same time I did. She said, we need to go over and volunteer to help with the math for the developmental program. And I said, why? And she said, well, we're going to be doing it anyway because we're the new kids on the block. And so let's be the leaders, let's take the initiative, let's go and volunteer to do that. So we went to then Dr. Chris Lefler was the director of the program, and we went to Dr. Lefler and said, you know, we want to be the math people for developmental education. And that really, I love all kinds of math. I love the collegiate level math, but really that is where my heart is, because I see people come in who struggle with math and need help. Some of them have just been out of school a little while and need that step up to remember what they used to know. And some have always struggled and had a difficult time. And to be able to help those people develop, I guess you asked a minute ago about my fondest memory. I think one of my fondest memories is a student I had who started in remedial. And I saw him walk across the stage wearing the gold honors cords for his degree. And that was a proud moment for me to see him do that.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you think that because of this program that was created to help people, do you think that that's really helped push Northeast State to another level?
Well, yes. I think Northeast State's strong feature is it's student-oriented. So we're always there to try to help, to try to provide what the students need to help them get where their goal is. We're here to get you there. I think we really took that to heart, and I think our developmental education program was a huge part of that in helping people meet them where they are and help them get where they want to go.
Exactly. Now, Dr. Powers, what is your fondest memory of your time as president at Northeast State?
Well, like Nancy, of course, the people that we had the privilege of working with, the faculty and the students, but one particular, and I don't remember her name, but one particular student has always challenged me as I've thought of her. In 1990, we started a Miss Northeast State pageant, and the purpose of that was to raise funds for young ladies to have scholarships. And it was a kind of a beauty contest, but also they did some talent. And the young lady that won the first one was a young lady who was deaf. We had a population of probably 12, well, at that time, about 3 or 4 deaf people. And she pantomimed and did a interpretive dance of The Wind Beneath My Wings. And what I remember about that is when she got through, there were very few dry eyes in the house. It was just, she was a beautiful young lady, and she showed so much courage. And incidentally, by her doing that and the word getting out in the community, the next year we had about 13 deaf students as part of our program. And but I still think of that young lady quite often, and her challenge that she was willing to accept. And I know there are many more like her, but that's one that really has stuck in my mind.
Oh, definitely, and obviously it made a huge impact on both of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Now, what was one of your favorite parts of being a president of Northeast State?
Getting paid. I think the thing I enjoyed most was the interactions I had with the faculty and staff and the students. I spent a lot of time out in the community working with industry and helping them to understand what we were about and providing programs for them. But I think the Sullivan County News, the final edition that came out when I was here, and I can't quote it exactly, but I thought this so encapsulated what my 10 years were about. It said, the genius of the success of Northeast State has been the cooperation of the faculty and staff working together. And I don't think anybody could have written any better description of what was going on while I was here. It was just, in my opinion, a wonderful relationship, and I got to work with these good people for the 10 years and saw them grow as well as I grew.
Now, Nancy, as a former dean, what is one part of your job that was probably one of your favorites?
Well, I may be, but I always liked scheduling. I want to say that's my favorite. I think it's the idea of having some control and being able to have some impact on the direction that the program is going, and always trying to look to ways to help students. We added computerized education. We were one of the very, very first departments in schools to try to add the computer component to a lot of our classes, and that, of course, has been a real popular thing with all schools now. So just being able to try to impact the direction and see what's needed and try to go there.
And Nancy, did you enjoy the counseling part of with the students?
The counseling part, as far as just like academic advisement, that kind of thing, yes. Anytime I'm working with the students, I would say that is my favorite parts.
Now, from what I understand, you also played a huge part in setting up with what we have now as the STEP program. What can you tell me a little bit about your involvement with that?
Okay, well, that was a SACS initiative, Southern Association's accreditation body, and you have to have what they call a quality enhancement plan every time you go through a SACS evaluation. So our quality enhancement plan was the STEP program, which is a teaching excellence program to provide information to the faculty, to training opportunities to help them pursue what we're supposed to see what the faculty want as far as training, and then try to provide what they need. So that was the STEP program, and it was our quality enhancement plan, and I was the leader of that. This was my involvement with it. Of course, we got excellent people to take the leadership of the actual quality, the Center for Teaching Excellence. And that has been the cause of the success, is the good leadership that we've had in there with Dr. Kelly and Ms. Dabney and Dr. Rick Merritt.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. Now, Dr. Powers, when you think of, or someone says Northeast State, what's the first thing that pops into your mind?
Great school. Again, I think that you can't talk about Northeast State without discussing the relationship between faculty and students. That doesn't happen in every campus. And it's extremely important for the faculty to be student-oriented, to be willing to give their time to help students, to counsel them, to deal with them. And I just think that's one of the significant factors of any community college, and Northeast State stands out in that. So it's the relationships that are developed between faculty. Nancy talked about the student that she saw complete his degree after starting out in developmental studies. That's rewarding, and our faculty, I think, took great pride in that kind of interaction and relationships.
Now, over the years, Northeast State has gone from a more non-traditional or older student body to your straight out of high school younger students. Why do you think that has been such a change?
One of the things that contribute to that is the fact it became a community college. And a lot of young people, quite frankly, it's much less expensive for a student to try to find themselves if they are not clear on what they want. And it opens a door that previously had been closed. So let me talk just a minute about the transition. We really haven't talked about that. And as I said, in 1990, the legislature approved that. But prior to that time, we changed from a quarter to a semester. So all of our classes had to be rewritten. And then we started the process of moving to the comprehensive community college, which means we had to develop a liberal arts division. And quite frankly, I had a person that I had gotten acquainted with when we made a group trip together. And when we got back to the Knoxville airport, I said to her, "Would you be interested in heading up our liberal arts department?" She said, "I don't think so." But I thought she would, and sure enough, she did. And what people don't understand is the tremendous task it is to get all of those liberal art courses syllabus written, to develop advising tracks, and our faculty just jumped in. And of course, we had to hire a lot of new faculty to teach some of those courses because we didn't have folks on our staff who could. So we actually admitted the first students in the community college in '91. And we had just gone through a SACS visit the year before. That's the Accreditation Association, and had passed it. In fact, we had no recommendations, and the chairman of the committee said, "I've never been to a school that had no recommendations." And so when we changed to a community college, we had to invite them to come back, because they came back then and reviewed all the credentials of the faculty we'd hired, reviewed the courses and the whole thing. So during this period of time, our faculty were just, the best way to describe it, they had their nose to the grindstone. But they did a beautiful job completing it and getting it ready for the students to enter in. And I think that that's a part of the success, that we had a good foundation upon which other presidents have now built and did a good job with it.
Definitely, and obviously it's become a pretty fantastic school.
Yeah, it really has. It's just, it's amazing to me to be able to come back, because when I was president, they were not giving any money for anything in terms of a building. Right. I don't know how we got the money, but the first thing we did was, we only had 18 acres on the campus. We bought a small portion adjacent to us. And finally, the last 2 years I was here, we got enough money to make it a total of 100 acres, which they have now. And I believe the way it's going, they'll soon have all of that occupied, probably with parking lots.
It's a good problem to have, then.
Yeah, well, it sure is, that's right.
Now, Nancy, and throughout all of the changes that Northeast State has been through, from a technical school to community college and adding new buildings and new programs of study, What is one of the most beneficial things you think Northeast State has done to expand?
I think the change from, if you look back through the history, the change from just the technical programs to the general education and the transfer programs would be the biggest impact on the community. So we've managed to keep our really strong technical programs, build them, make them stronger, and even add new ones for people who want to come and go for 2 years and go into the workforce. We still have a really strong program there, but we've also been able to add a high quality transfer program for students who want to come and get their first 2 years and then transfer to a 4-year university. And to have that aspect of the college is such a big difference in having just the strong technical programs. And I think that the strong gen ed component that was necessary for the transfer program has made the technical programs that much stronger.
And Nancy, why would you say that Northeast State is such a great college for not only right out of high school students, but also your non-traditional students?
Well, I think you get at the community college, most of your faculty are there and their primary focus is teaching, whereas in a lot of the universities, a lot of the faculty have a primary focus on research. So when you get people, you get really strong teachers that way in the community college. So I think that is one thing that makes it a good choice for students right out of high school. That, and of course, Dr. Powers already mentioned the cost, and now with Tennessee Promise, even no cost, that is a big benefit for the students coming right out of high school. For the students who are returning to school, who've been out for a while, a little bit, the older student, I think the choice between the strong technical program, if they want to get a good foundation and go to work, that's there for them. If they want to transfer and get a 4-year degree, that is there for them. They're going to run into experts in the field on the technical side who can guide them and have good connections. We have an excellent job placement out of our technical programs. There's just all kinds of advantages, I think, for students of all ages and walks of life.
Definitely. Now, Dr. Powers, Nancy mentioned Tennessee Promise and how it's definitely changing how life is on Northeast State. In your opinion, how is Tennessee Promise going to change Northeast State?
Well, I'm not sure it will change Northeast State as such. It will attract more students, obviously. But the thing that I think is significant, our foundation here and the one where I am a member of in Gallatin, what has happened with Tennessee Promise, the money we'd been using for scholarships for student coming in, we didn't have to use all of that money, so we could provide scholarships to our older students who are not eligible for Tennessee Promise. So I think it opens doors other than just the one that Nancy mentioned, the incoming students, because it frees some money that can be shifted in a different direction and help those older students who may be coming to Northeast State for a technical degree particularly.
Now, looking back, what is one, or do you have one memory that kind of expresses how your time was at Northeast State and how you still carry it with you even to this day?
Well, maybe I couldn't tell that on. No, seriously. It would be difficult for me to choose one particular incident. On one hand, I really enjoyed the opportunity that the college offered me to be out in the community working with industry, because we were still providing very valuable service to industry and we didn't want to lose that contact. When I was here, I was a member of 5 chambers of commerce and attended the meetings regularly because I wanted the people to see somebody representing Northeast State. But then the other part of that memory is, again, I cannot fail to mention the good relationship I felt that I had with the faculty here, faculty and staff. It was not unusual for me to be out roaming the campus, And people first thought I was coming to check on them. And that really wasn't the purpose at all. I just wanted to get to know them better and get acquainted with them. And so I spent a lot of time, as they say in management books, managing by wandering around. And those are very, very good memories that I have about my 10 years here.
Now, Nancy, talking about the general education that's been brought in, the General Corps, what is the importance of having that at Northeast State?
The general education. Well, the general education is a strong component, is a required component of any degree that you get at any college anywhere. So having the strong program is going to be the foundation for all the other education.
Now, Nancy, what is one thing that you've learned from your extended time at Northeast State that sort of you still carry with you even to this day?
I think it's hard to separate what you brought with you and grew, you know, when you've been at a place for a long, long time, and what you learned while you were there. I think I would say if you have a difficult task to tackle and you don't know where to start, just start. And then go see if you can't round up some help, because there's going to be people around that know a lot more than you do about anything you're doing, and usually you can find somebody to help you.
Now, Dr. Powers, what do you want for the future of Northeast State?
Well, my hope is that it will continue to serve the students as they have in the past, and I think they will. That they will continue to be a strong factor in education in Northeast Tennessee, both the technical and collegiate level. I just think that for Northeast State to continue to provide the mission and hold the path they're on now. And I believe when we see this new technical building finished, that we are going to see one of the finest buildings in the state of Tennessee. And it is just exciting to me to think about that building being built on this campus. And it's interesting to think back, because it was when I was here that we developed the master plan for the facility that's pretty well followed now.
Oh, absolutely, and it's finally coming into fruition. But thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Powers and Nancy. And
it's been my privilege. Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. We'll be right back in just a moment to wrap up Direction Northeast.
Going to college was a big decision, but when I graduate from Northeast State, I know I can have a career.
Over half of our employees are graduates of Northeast State Community College.
When we see Northeast State on an application, we always give that candidate a second look.
Our company partners with Northeast State, knowing that their students graduate as trained professionals that become our employees both today and into the future.
Discover the career opportunities that await you. Northeast State Community College.
That concludes the program for today. In this episode of Direction Northeast, we examined the transition of the school to a community college. Community is very important to the students at Northeast State Community College, and this program takes a look at the few subjects they find important. Until we meet next time, on behalf of the students, staff, and faculty of Northeast State Community College, I'm Abby Hathorn, and this is Direction Northeast.